Welcome. We're doing an on-the-spot live YouTube stream. I'm Richard Dolan, and this is my neighborhood. Tracy's holding the camera. You want to say hello?
Hello, everyone.
All right. So this is part of our life. So we're outside. We just had some of the best chicken in the universe, which we get nearby. Finishing that on this porch, and I was talking with Tracy about the simulation hypothesis, which is something that we've discussed quite a few times. And it was Tracy's idea just to go live with us, so here we go. We're just going to do this. I've been thinking about the simulation hypothesis for many years, and the reason it's coming up in this context is because I've been rethinking thoughts on the extraterrestrial hypothesis relating to UFOs, as well as comparing it to other theories about what is actually the fundamental, what's the foundation of the UFO phenomenon, I guess we could put it that way. I've talked about this a lot of times before, and I've in fact discussed the simulation hypothesis in connection to that. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, there's a lot of information about this out there, but the way it came to me years ago, I'm pretty sure this is an article by Nick Bostrom, who's one of the best known proponents of this. He put it this way. He says, imagine a future in which we have the ability to create ultra-realistic virtual reality environments.
Louder.
What's that now?
Louder.
Louder. How about this? I'm going to take this off. We're going to go louder still. How's this?
We'll see what they
Asking
say.
you. Okay. So he says, imagine we have a world in the future where we have the ability to create a kind of ultra realistic virtual reality immersive environment where you are interacting with a complete world. Are we good here?
They're having trouble hearing.
Why don't we walk into the backyard? Let's walk together.
We have all that construction.
We're going to walk into the backyard. Come on.
Oh, God.
It'll be quiet. We're out in the middle of a loud street. Let's do this together. I'm completely terrifying Tracy with all of this. Mm-hmm. Let me grab your Mac, your computer, and we're just going to walk. And as we continue to walk, I will continue to talk. We're going down the steps.
Oh, God. If we
Say
mysteriously
hello to
cut out, then we'll be right
This
back.
is all live. No. Oh, yeah. Construction work on the outside of the house. Tracy's delicately going to hide that. We're doing a little bit of work here. And everyone will tell me if the sound is better or not better. So.
Forgive me, I'm looking down at for nails on the ground, so
We've
one
been
sec.
doing a little bit of work here. So
Okay.
This is going to be our little place. There's a squirrel running away with some kind of piece of food out there. All right. This is your computer, my dear. So I'm going to assume the sound is going to be a little bit better.
Yeah,
we go back on the microphone here.
There. We won't have the traffic, so.
There we go. It was my idea to shoot that out in the by the street, and apparently it wasn't the best idea.
They're saying that I'm loud and that's quiet, so that must mean the mic is not working.
Well, let's unplug and replug. I'm checking all the connections here, so hopefully this is better. This is it. There we go. Am I louder? I hate doing this live. Okay. I'm going to continue.
Okay.
Imagine that we are in a future environment. This is Bostrom writing this a number of years ago, in which you can engage in a virtual reality environment that's ultra realistic, in which you can interact with a whole array of characters that are just artificially intelligent programs, algorithms. They think they're alive because they're sentient. So we'll have the ability, he hypothesizes and other people hypothesize, to create a series of intelligent algorithms within a virtual created world. And can you imagine that happening? And I think the answer is, yeah, we actually can imagine that happening. So then he goes on further and says, well, imagine then that we'll have the ability to create a large multiplicity of such environments virtually. And if you want to go back to like Elizabethan England or visit the steppes of the golden Mongol horde of 1,000 years ago, then you could do that. You can recreate that life. And with all of these virtual reality characters that are artificially intelligent. And then extrapolate out and consider that there could be an artificially intelligent program that could create a virtual infinite number of such worlds, each replete with its own population of artificially intelligent programs that believe that they're real people. Sound impossible? Well, when you really think it through step by step, you could think maybe it could happen. So that's the premise. And then here's the kicker. He said, well, if this is a possibility, then what makes us believe that we're living in base reality? That means what makes us think that we are in the fundamental, actual, true reality? After all, those computer simulations might very well think they're alive. What makes you think you're alive, considering that there may be millions and billions and trillions of permutations of artificially created scenarios in which each program thinks it's alive? What makes you think you're actually a real biological organism? So that's the simulation hypothesis. And I remember the first time I read this, I just thought, no, I hate this. This is the worst. How do you disprove it? I mean, it seems to me pretty impossible to prove or disprove, and that makes it questionable of scientific validity. But could it be true nevertheless? And I suppose it could be true, right? So I was thinking about this earlier, and I guess my opinion is that it still seems very unlikely to me that we are living in a simulated reality. We do live in a world where there is many, many layers of deception and untruth around us, but that's different from saying that we're living in something that's not base reality. And the only reason I'm thinking this is that, and I admit this is my own imagination failing, probably, but when you think of the utter complexity of the world that we live in, and I'm not just talking about the plant life around me or all of the millions of people and billions of people that are in this world, all of the different ideas that are expressed in this world, but getting down into the microscopic level, microbial organisms and bacteria, and then onto the grand scale, and dealing then with the laws of physics and the incredible complex detail of all of this world, this fabric of reality. I just think that is unbelievably complex, if that is a recreation indeed. Now, Tracy and I were talking about this, and you were thinking, well, maybe it's possible. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, I was saying that I think it's possible that we cannot fathom what it could be like down the road in terms of virtual reality. So keeping that in mind, it's possible that this isn't real and we perceive it is. It's a possibility. I'm not saying that I think that's what is. I'm just saying it could be.
Well, I take your point, and I'm sure a lot of listeners would take your point as well. I just feel like there's a little too much complexity for my taste for me to say, oh yeah, I'm probably living in a simulation. I don't know. If they're going through that level of detail for us, and that's a heck of a simulation. So anyway, I mention this here in this context because, I mean, why would I talk about the simulation hypothesis? I write about UFOs. This is not, technically speaking, my strong suit, right? Why would I talk about it? Well, A, it's interesting, and so why not talk about it? But B, it seems to me that when you talk about the different possibilities of what constitutes, or what is the foundation for the UFO phenomenon, like what is it? Is it extraterrestrials? Well, we talk about that all the time, and that's still the theory that I go to the most. It's the theory that I find the most powerful in terms of all the things that it can explain. But there's a lot of other ways of looking at the ETH, the extraterrestrial hypothesis, than simply 1955, men and women in metal spaceships landing for a potential invasion or to make friends with us or anything like that. Like, no, that's not the ETH that I think we really need to be looking at. All right, but we can incorporate a modern version of the extraterrestrial hypothesis, one that incorporates some of the very unusual and strange physics that we have learned about over the past 50 plus years in our world. So I think there's a lot of potential for a fresh version of an ETH. And when I think of the simulation hypothesis, the reason I can't quite dismiss it as much as I want to, I would love to just say, no, not possible. But I can't dismiss it. And the reason I can't is because it does seem to be the case that we live in a world of some odd synchronicities. You know, hardcore materialists, physicists might say that's all bunk. Well, I'm having a hard time being convinced that it's all bunk. And I'll just put that out there. When I encounter evidence by remote viewers who can see things on the other side of the world or in another part of time, then you explain that to me. There's not a conventional explanation for that stuff. And other elements about our world. I published 2 books by my friend Mike Clellan, The Messengers and Stories from the Messengers. And I mention it here because Mike put through a series of accounts in his research that are highly synchronistic events in connection with UFO sightings. And they're 2 really excellent books. And so when we think about the likelihood, I guess I'll put it, that there are genuine synchronicities in this world, then what explains that? Maybe a God hypothesis? Okay, fine. But maybe a simulation hypothesis as well. And that's why I'm coming to the simulation hypothesis in this little chat here, because it has a possible connection to UFOs in that one sense. So that's basically it, and I don't really know if I have anything else to say on the simulation hypothesis right now. If I have other thoughts that pop into my head, we can do another live stream, but we have to make sure we got the microphone working. Do you know, Tracy, if we've got this?
It's sounding like the audio is very low according to people, so I think, if you want to say anything else...
No. Let's just wrap it up.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll try to figure out what's going on. Okay?
Bye.
All right. Take care,
Later.
everyone. Sorry, we're going to sort that out.
Did you end that?